You are about to be blown by the mind-numbing things that are happening and moving in strides in the cannabis industry. I'm your host, Kat of the Sister Sesh podcast. Grab your favorite strains, your munchies, and let's sit up on the couch because it's a special episode today. We are whipping out our Cannabis Chronicles. I am updating you on the latest and greatest in the cannabis industry and cannabis culture. So let's dive into it. Did you know? Oh my God, I was so amazed when I came across this article in High Times where New York City is starting to become on the map for cannabis tourism. I remember when we lived in Cali and it first got legal and everything else, and the momentum and the drive, and when you could have that first, when they opened the very first like cannabis like coffee shops and things in that space. So New York has emerged as a thriving hub for cannabis enthusiasts with the legalization of recreational marijuana. That's where it's at, really, because you get to get around such stigmatization of it is coming around. And that's really what we truly enjoy. Legalization has made it accessible for tourists looking to have an infused time and enjoy the city's vibrant cannabis culture, offering a world-class dispensaries, cannabis-friendly accommodations, cannabis like weed tours. They are, infused restaurant delights, arts, creative experiences, and great of cannabis networking opportunities. So cannabis culture is moving and it's thriving. I think it's just a whole vibe in New York, really. They're catching up with the legalization. New York has been very vibrant and inclusive in cannabis culture, with cannabis events, workshops, festivals. That it's there. I've seen a lot. There's a lot of great things happening in those communities, and the things people have really, those trailblazers are trying, really seeing like the fruits of their labors in that state. Top-notch restaurants in New York are also offering cannabis-infused dinners, events. Like New York is known for their top-notch culinary experience. So if you could think of it as it's the best thing I could think of for an example. Imagine Gordon Ramsay's greatest meal, but infused. Like think of a tomahawk steak. You go to a steakhouse, but it's infused. Desserts there are really popping. There's a lot of kind of bakeries and things like that. They've catched up with time. Deliveries is easier. There's a lot of dispensaries that do it. The city's reputation around like weed and tourism, they're really making a market. Like if you think of it, it's really smart. It's just, I'll use a theme park for an example in that sense. So say there's a new theme park going to open up in town, but um, due to building structures, you can't have a roller coaster too high. Well, everyone knows you've been advertising like we're going to make this happen, we're going to make that happen, which New York did with legalization, recreational legalization of cannabis. Sorry, that was a tongue time for me. um, so if you use that as an example, they've hyped that yes, we're going to recreationally legalize. So, and then you tell you can't do it. that that marketing is just like, okay, now when they finally reach the threshold, it's like opening day for that theme park. So it's like opening day for the cannabis industry and the culture there. It's very even underground. There's been a lot of like nice, cool, like cozy, seshy events. But now I think, with the destigmatization of it and just the way society has seen cannabis in the last couple of years, they are having those New York's having their moment, really. Like the green thumb is there. The love and appreciation and the soulfulness for the plant is really embraced by the city, and where they want to go, what they really want to do with it. And I really love that, like a lot of big dispensaries and cultivators, out there in New York are just really taking the time and creating quality products, not just trying to rush things to market. The dispensary there and the cultures are different when it comes to that. In a sense of they're more intentional in what they are cultivating, what type of strains that thing. It's a deep love for the plant that comes from everything. And as our society has changed and that cultural shifts, New York is very known for like their outdoors, Central Park. Like New York is just, there's so many little treasure troves and things to enjoy in the city. If you're a city slicker, really. So cannabis-friendly parks provide that perfect access to relax with friends, have that iconic cultural attraction in the New York essence. Like the culture, cannabis culture is just being embraced and loved and thrived and celebrated. And it's come a long way for them. So New Yorkers are just like, let's get it. Let's go on. Let's do what we came out to do. And I think that as we move forward with legalization, it comes at a deeper price, which mostly links to our next topic, really. So, in the recent weeks and months, it has been talked about. So, President Biden went on his soapbox and he said that he was going to try to federally legalize cannabis. I still think my personal opinion, we have gone in strides in the industry. We have gained momentum. And it wouldn't be without those influential people in the cannabis industry that have paid that way for us to have this celebration and success and the booming economy that comes from cannabis. But I feel that we're not quite there yet. There are steps that need to be taken. But in the recent month, this is a huge step. So for a lot of you who don't know, the FDA considers cannabis a Schedule is considered cannabis a Schedule 2 drug, which is considered addictive. All those, when we're all like scared into the DARE program, everyone was like, marijuana, cannabis is like, weed's going to be like the gateway to heroin. Kind of that's how it was kind of approached to me, and in that stigmatization of it all. So now, in recent weeks, it has been rescheduled. Rescheduling cannabis as a Schedule 3 substance might be a significant shift that can reshape us and the industry. This change comes with a slight legalization for its medical use, which then opens opportunities. So in the last maybe 10 years or so, 5 to 10 years or so in the industry, to be taken seriously, it has been like medically, that's how kind of get your foot in the door. Because when the people started to realize the beautiful and healing medicinal purposes of the plant, and for cancer patients, those with chronic illnesses, those with PTSD, just another aspects of illnesses and things and ailments, just we're going back to that holistic root that we're supposed to have. So which opens the door. So medically, like we've talked about, is you talk to your neighbor, you do other things, and you're like, oh, this is great. I feel good. Medically, that's where we've been able to have that shift in it. So according to this article out of Cannabis Science Tech, obtaining a GMP 211 certification from an accredited source is crucial to ensuring the longevity and success of the cannabis industry. The most likely set of regulations will be adopted into a new FDA code.
There has been a generational shift. Gen Z's efforts to be healthier has created a phenomenon called California Sober. For those of you who don't know the term of being California sober, it's from people who abstain from alcohol and drugs, with the exception of cannabis. So, in recent studies and shows in this regard, this Gen Z is taking the approach as they are swiping out booze and replacing with pot as an alternative. It's beneficiary for one category in particular. And the cannabis companies are thriving and jumping on the bandwagon to get in front of the right consumers. Gen Z, they control, that generation controls pretty much the longevity of the cannabis industry and the destigmatization of the plant in general. This trend is entirely driven to have THC drinks. And these cannabis companies are coming in and they're just like, all right, I know that you're not trying to stop drinking. So they have suggestive ads that are like, you know what? Why don't you just have a puff pass instead? Join the sesh. You don't have to have a toque. You want to have a drink with the buddies? You don't have to consume alcohol. You can be a little bit elevated. You have that THC drink. And these ads are mainly targeted. I think it's funny because I've came across a couple of them being, let's be California sober, in the sense of they taunt the benefits of versus consuming marijuana and alcohol, because the benefits are like, hey, look, if you just smoke some pot, you have no hangover, you have no ill effects. There's so much research out there that has yet to be compared to the relevant health risks, because they do not study cannabis the way they do alcohol. It's been proven. As more states in the United States, where cannabis is becoming more recreational legal in the years, as alcohol sales drop, pot sales increase. So, our wonderful queen state as she is in her glory, a cannabis queen, have it all. Colorado. For example, Colorado's marijuana sales are like 10% the size of the alcohol market. It was like 5 years ago. Their December report from an investment bank, DM Cove, said that this is a moving fast trajectory. So, as St. Patrick's Day is like coming up on the rise and the big day, why don't we have green beer? Smoke some weed leaf with a leprechaun. It's becoming, the dispensaries are on the rise of it. They have those 2 THC infused drinks. Well, it's like the whole mentality of being California sober, in a sense, is that you can enjoy a cannabis beverage at the same time as still being socially acceptable. Nonetheless, by Gen Z consuming cannabis and perceiving pot as a healthier alternative to booze. Why? Because in reality, we know the health risks of alcohol. It's been studied. We don't know the health risks or the health benefits of cannabis, because we're just barely getting there. We know that if we drink alcohol in pregnancy, there's adult fetal failure syndrome. We know that if we smoke tobacco, and a pack of cigarettes during pregnancy or whatever, you have smaller birth weight. We know that if you drink and drive, you're impaired. We know that, the chemical reactions and how it alternates your brain differently than when you consume cannabis and alcohol. It's the whole shift in the mentality is, this is a generation that's saying, okay, we accept to destigmatize the plant. We accept the fact that this is on the rise to be a more healthier alternative than those wild party drinking days where we're just sitting up thinking about it. Like, let's go out, let's go drink, let's go party, let's go do what we want to do. And that's not specifically how that works in a sense of now, because as the perceptions have changed into replacing booze with weed, it's improved. These ads have to be crafty, because as the alcohol industry increases in its sales, the cannabis industry, it's a win. Why? On the other side of cannabis culture, on the far end spectrum, we're just going to go into the artsy-fartsy part of it. So in the artist, we'll put this in the artist, like, creative category of the cannabis culture. A documentary recently came out called Cannabis and Creativity and has won 2 awards at the film festival for its exploratory role of how cannabis is integrated into an artist's creative process. Directed by Emma Ferkel and produced by Easton, the film features interviews with artists who integrate cannabis into their creative workflow. Like, how genius is that? Like, people don't realize, like, you open your mind to a whole lot of things when you integrate cannabis into your creative process. That's why we partake during episodes, because the creative juices are flowing. You're able to have, like, a lot more insight in what you would think. So the film, it's resound with the audiences, critics, and audiences alike. It generates so much buzz on social media, earning very positive reviews all the way around, because it represents cannabis as a muse and a partner in the creative process. They're like one, it's like my nugs are my homies. It's that residential thing. Also, it shines a light and it invites the audience and invites viewers in to really reconsider their potential, like, perception of what is really often misunderstood plant. People don't really understand the health benefits of cannabis, or just the mental health aspects of cannabis. They don't understand just your endocannabinoid system and how it affects your body from the time you consume, and different types of consumption. So it kind of gives that. The success of the documentary does reflect on a larger conversation about the integration of cannabis use within art. Like, I can only imagine certain pieces or the inspiration of cannabis culture that these artists have taken. So it was astounding reviews. So for updates on documentaries, if you want to give it a go and look, I invite you to follow Emma Frickle on Instagram. I will link it down in the show notes below, and really just take a look. It's just, I haven't seen it, but I've seen a little trailer of it, and it's going to get you to really think. I think that the perspective, just by the trailer of it, was just like, okay, we are just an average Joe. Why do you smoke weed? Like, why do you need to do this to have a greater perspective of it? I think that it brings a newfound love and respect for the plant in general.